This is parkour, internet sensation of 2004, and it was in one of the Bond films. It's pretty impressive. The goal is to get from point A to point B as creatively as possible. So technically they are doing parkour as long as point A is delusion and point B is the hospital.
Why are you running?
I'm a power scroll.
Since my video on medieval MMA, I've been obsessed with finding the most incredible and insane forms of combat sport. So what could be more insane than dressing up as a medieval knight and bashing someone's head in? Probably jumping from obstacle to obstacle and bashing someone's head in.
Parkour.
Hyperdrive.
Hip show originated from... Hold on, let me just check. Russia. Okay, well, that isn't a surprise. Maybe it's because they're banned from every other sporting event possible. The Russians tend to come up with the most insane events, and arena combat is just another one of those. Parkour meets MMA. Do you know that professional tag where you see people doing the most insane jumps and slides through what look like dangerously metal barriers? Well, it's like that, but now you're pounding someone's skull in. Oh. And it's 2v2. Calling a 2v2 competition is somewhat lenient, as getting double teamed with guys with 6-ounce gloves I can imagine isn't the most fun thing in the world. Teams score through an array of strikes and submissions in the arena. It's pretty violent, but it looks pretty exciting. Oh, there's also this King of the Hill variant of it, where if you manage to capture the top platforms, that's how you become victorious. So you can relive your Halo 3 game modes in real life.
Double kill, triple kill, overkill, kill. Spectacular. Brains.
It's December 26, 1908, and world's heavyweight champion Tommy Burns defends his title in Sydney, Australia against Jack Johnson. Here's Tommy Burns getting himself into the best shape of his entire career. In 9 days, Tommy will defend his title against the scourge of the heavyweight ranks, Jack Johnson. And Tommy knows that this is going to be the fight of his life.
Пиранья, вот! Вот он, пиранья! Производит удушающий прием, смотрите!
This has to be one of the most brutal sports I've ever goddamn seen. 2v2 MMA in itself is wild. Genuinely a sport that is championed for being incredibly skill-based and brutal. MMA is growing in popularity massively. Stepping into the octagon is no mean feat. With a combination of strikes, kicks, and of course takedowns, now you've got to look out for 2 opponents. Surely this is never going to be accepted anywhere apart from Eastern Europe. Hold on, one sec. Really? On Amazon Prime? And Apple TV in the US. Recently, this has also started popping up in the UK and surrounding Europe. So Hip Show is not now just a Russian-based entertainment. Being brought into the US, it is still growing in popularity. Okay, my notes for this part actually just says swinging balls. So the arena is your average kids play area. Tabletops, tunnels, swinging balls, as mentioned, low and high platforms for all the added obstacles, just to get in your way as you're hunted or you run away from your opponents. Being duos, there are 2 referees. Of course, just to make sure this brutal brawl is somewhat chivalrous. Tobey Maguire must channel everything through these guys.
My back! My back!
Forget about getting a chiropractor. Yukalov has got you sorted with some quick body slams off a 6-foot platform. Punching, kicking, takedowns is all allowed. Just make sure a house MD is on standby to give you a swift diagnosis for your ruptured spleen.
I'm sorry, I missed that. Could you do that again?
Honestly, how can you even keep up with this? I'm trying to watch these events, and they're all on YouTube, by the way. I do not know what's going on. How do you score this? How is this legal? A flying shoulder tackle.
Guten Tag, everybody. Today's fun fact has to be pretty quiet, because the missus has fallen asleep on me while we were cuddling. Fun fact, not only is cuddling just generally awesome, it also has many health benefits. Cuddling makes the brain produce a hormone called oxytocin, which can help boost the immune system, reduce stress, and even lower inflammation. So, if I were you, I'd get to cuddling.
Also, as soon as half your team is done, by the way, it's pretty much over. Sure, it is 2v2, but if one person gets knocked out, two fighters jumping you at once, going for a double takedown could perhaps be one of the most terrifying versions of legal assault that I've ever seen. So, on a serious note, let's talk a little bit about ethics, because some people do question how brutal that we're going to get with these combat sports. At first, I wasn't sure how traditional MMA audiences would react, AXS Fight CAO Andrew Simon said. Hip Show has MMA components, athleticism, and frenetic craziness. I showed clips to fight fans, fighters, and other TV executives, and the reaction was all the same. They all thought it was awesome and they wanted to see more. I realise there'll be a vocal few that have issues with the show, but at the end of the day, there's also a vocal minority that doesn't appreciate MMA. Okay, fair enough. So, the CEO of the company that bought Hip Show into the USA, of course, is going to be very much on board with this. And granted, it is incredibly entertaining. But does the morbid curiosity that I admit I do have excuse the occasional arm break that we're seeing on live TV? Because MMA is brutal. But this seems slightly up a notch. Yes, sometimes women can just be as stupid as men in the name of entertainment. And whilst it may not have grown exponentially like other sports do, due to, well, it's the dumbest thing since Dana White promoted slap contests.
That's a knockout!
Safety clearly isn't the number one incentive here. Their YouTube channel, by the way, is full of the most crazy fights that I've ever seen, with some gripping twists, admittedly, and also dominating teams. It's kind of horrible to see some of these outcomes. I mean, there was a point where it was 2v2, and these guys started taking out one team. They managed to take out one of the fighters, and then did a complete double takedown and submission on the other. Imagine being that guy as two heavily armed men, and I don't mean literal weapons, but those fists look like they could do a lot of damage, come at you to do a submission. Arms are breaking, faces are bloodied, and of course, there is the occasional suplex in the arena, because why wouldn't there be? There is plenty of WWE infused within here, and whilst it looks like there isn't, there are supposedly some sort of rules and scoring. Hip Show or arena combat is one of the most brutal combat sports out there. And whilst there may be questions about ethics and whether it is right, people sign up for this sort of thing. And hey, as long as I'm watching from the sidelines, I can't be held accountable, right?